So we're here today to present Nightmare Reaper. We're both very excited. We've been planning this and kind of playing this for the past, I don't know, month, basically. We both, I think, put about 18 hours in on a playthrough, I think, about 16 hours.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to open up some of the notes here that you have and some of the notes that we got from the devs. Kate, thank you very much for following up.
Do you want me to do a rundown?
Yeah, you know what? You start us off. You start us off.
Yeah, okay. So Nightmare Reaper's been made by one full-time employee over more than 5 years. I'd sent them a bunch. I had sent the dev Bruno a bunch of questions, and they came back to me as well. So I'll go through them later on. But yeah, so he's been developing it for over more than 5 years. He's worked with Andrew Hulshult for the soundtrack and the sound design, and Bruce Jones for sorry, that's my accent, for the enemy art. With the whole like rise in the retro FPS scene as well, I thought it would be a good question to ask if there was any like advice they'd give to people wanting to try to build their own games, because so many people now and so many games are coming out that it's like almost analysis paralysis, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely agree.
And they had said keep the project small in order to actually be able to finish it. You also need a lot of self-discipline to work on it every chance you get. I think that's the most important thing, to be able to find a healthy way to motivate yourself to complete the project. And I thought that was quite good, actually. I've never heard anybody say a healthy way to motivate yourself to complete the project. I've really never heard that before. A lot of people are very much either you see it on Twitter a lot. You'll see a lot of people crunch and then just burn and then crunch and burn, and especially in these days as well, even the AAA companies, with the whole crunchgate crap that you get. It's nice to hear somebody say, deal with it in a healthy way.
Right. Stereo Bucket,
motivated.
Thank you very much for showing up the stream. Very nice having you here. Welcome to DGA. It's funny too, because you look at a lot of these indie dev games, and at tops, you're looking at one person, like kind of one lead, and then the possibility of whether or not they can afford anybody else to do anything else.
Yeah.
So when you look at small projects like this, people don't really appreciate like for me, I would rather buy the Steam key and give people physical copies of the Steam key at full price, because I know that these types of games are paying somebody's fucking dinner on their plate / whatever inspires them to keep making it. And I think there's
it's paying this solo dev for more than 5 years of work.
It's crazy. And you look at $30, whereas you look at $100 new game, you're spending, how many people worked on it between advertising, marketing, test audiences. There could be 100, 200 people behind any normal AAA title. And you're paying $100 to get, and all those people get $1 and cent. With an indie game, you get to give that person your money, and there's very little in between from like Steam to directly them. And now I don't know if you asked It Burn this, but I had mentioned I'm very interested when it comes to indie dev stuff, like how they make the decision to pull between being an indie dev or whether or not they look out for someone like New Blood, where it's like, you reach out and you do something maybe a little bigger. And I had a little bit of a conversation with It Burn a while ago on this when they were in stream, and they were like, kind of the hassle and the fuss to do something like that versus the amount of money you can make by just kind of going at it yourself. There's a lot that can be said for kind of both systems, I think. But it's very evident that this developer wanted to make this specific game and tell kind of this specific story, and it's really nice, especially for me. I don't know about you. This was probably one of the first boomer shooter retro titles that I got excited about after I played a Medieval and Dusk. This was kind of the first like big one that stood out to me. And I think it was kind of on the forefront of the retro boomer shooter craze, and it's really nice that games are finally coming out.
I think it was nice because you could kind of tell some of the inspirations. Like I couldn't have pinpointed them, but I could tell some of them like straight away. And again, I asked that as well, and I think some of the inspirations, the fact that some of these inspirations were relevant to me as well. So I'd asked about, I could feel a bunch of inspirations, but what was there a set idea already to begin with, or was it let's sort of try and see what we can do with all these inspirations? And they came back to me and said that their biggest inspirations were Doom, Rise of the Triad, Blood, and Diablo. But the game isn't trying to be those. It started as a general idea with those as the inspiration and sort of evolved around everything. And
Absolutely.
I can see those. I can see those inspirations, you know.
Well, I feel like with the movement, like especially once you get into Act 2 and you get access to the grappling hook and double jump, you can really tell like for me, I don't know if the dev mentioned it, but it seems very much like they played some Doom Eternal and were like, wow, that's a simple addition. Like these are simple additions to make to these games that make them way faster. They make the combat loop way more interesting.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as I got the grappling hook, I was like, damn, suddenly it just opens all this verticality for me. I was like, oh,
But
shit.
on the flip side,
and then they actually used it, though.
The,
I found that they actually used the verticality.
well, and I was going to add to that by saying they actually, by the time you get the grappling hook, is when they start bringing in they bring in 3 or 4 new enemies that all basically have attacks that completely fuck you up when you're grappling around.
Yeah.
So the dev certainly added these things, played it, tested it, and then went back and said, well, no, like grappling's too strong. Maybe we need to add in an ice dragon, or we need to add in enemies that make it so, because if you get too frozen, you can't use your grappling hook. And it's like, well, you start relying on that, you get frozen, you get fucked.
Some of the traps as well. So some of the traps in like puzzle rooms stop you from using the grappling hook, so you have to use the momentum of a launch and things from it, and it's really fucking cool the way.
Yeah, the
really
minute you
cool.
get shocked,
I like that.
You're like a semi-paralysis when you get shocked, and like you can't reload as quickly. Like everything's kind of slow for a second while you're fully paralyzed.
Yeah.
But I also like, well, I mean, we're kind of just going all over the board, but the way the elemental status kind of worked, like there seemed to be 2 or 3 different. Anyway, let's get to that a little later. I think that's more game stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So more questions for the dev.
Yeah, well, so I've sort of peppered the questions that I sent and the responses. I've peppered them into the sort of sections. So
beautiful.
They'll come around. Don't worry.
Perfect.
I guess. Do we want to go on to story? Do we talk about the story?
So yeah, this is kind of interesting because I feel
no spoilers.
I feel like the story. Yeah, it's probably the best to start with the story because it kind of sets the pace for how the game unfolds as you play it. And although I don't think the story is the pivotal aspect of what you're doing, I think the dungeon crawling is what I would probably call it. The dungeon crawling is the most fun, but the story certainly, like, to me, the minute you get in that hospital gown and you're in the hospital again, you're suddenly not playing a retro shooter. You're suddenly playing like a new indie dev horror game. And that certainly comes from, and it builds from, the atmosphere, from the lighting to the flickering of the lights, the voices, and all this happens as your character basically awakes to a hospital gown in a locked in a bedroom. Locked in a hospital room, and that's where you find yourself.
I mean, I completely agree with you. I even think actually it goes as far as to be like, it starts off, the very, very beginning. Imagine you've got a brand new save, brand new game. It's at the very beginning, the first time you go there, it's creepy, but then it's sort of, each time you go back, it kind of gets less creepy and you get more confident, and then suddenly something
there's like a shadow of yourself. It's like boom.
Yeah, freaks the fuck out of you, and you're like, whoa, what? And then something else happens one time. You wake up and you're like, wait, hold on. There's more to this. I really liked that. I thought that was cool. Whenever I was streaming it, I'd sort of made I'd made a promise to myself that I wasn't gonna run around every time I go back to the hospital and check for stuff and check for lore and secrets and things. But I did it every time. Every single time I went back to the hospital, I had to make sure and check. And
and you get into it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You get into it.
I got really into it. I was finding things which I didn't even know you could do in that. I was doing. It was super cool. I noticed as well I thought it was interesting that you
Oh,
couldn't.
thank Arrowwares.
You don't actually. Yeah. Cheers, Arrowwares.
That's like the best and worst compliment you could give us, you bastard. No.
Stop making good content. Shut up, damn it.
So yeah, you go ahead. Tell us what the story is, kind of from the perspective of you find yourself in the hospital gown.
Yeah, so like you find yourself, you wake up, you find yourself in the hospital gown. You're in a room, a locked room. You've got your toilet. You've got some books. There's a map on a table, on a wall. Sorry. You've got some paper on the wall, like a sheet of paper, and you've got a sheet of paper on the table. And the sheet of paper on the table is the doctor who is treating you's diary. It seems to me anyway. It doesn't specifically say that, but it
kind of implies the perspective of the. It's kind of like there's a third-party narrator that's watching Nightmare Reaper happen, but it's very loose. It's very loose.
Very much, yeah. It's very much like the more you go through it, the more levels you do, the more pages you get, and the more you start to find out about the character's backstory and why they're there in the first place. And it's very dark, actually. I was quite surprised how dark it gets.
Well, every time you think it's dark, you read the next page and the next two pages, and you're like, God, that's even more grim than it was the first time I read it.
Like, I read a page and it was something, like, let's, as an example, it was something like, they ran away from home, and I was like, oh, that's not too bad. And then the next one was something like, as an entire example, this is absolutely not what it said, and it's like, and then they murdered puppies, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. What? It's funny because
it went from to oh Christ. What?
I know exactly the 2 pages you're talking about because I read them a little earlier. It's like, no spoilers because it's interesting stuff, but it may as well have been that. It may as well, you get to it and you're just like, God damn, like I thought that last page was shit.
Yeah.
You get to this page, it's like it's even worse.
Why am I reading this? But what I thought was interesting about the whole story thing, okay, I thought this the whole time I played it was, has it been done on purpose that you don't have to look around in the hospital? You can just literally get up, finish a level, wake up, turn around, and get back into the bed and go to the next level.
Well, so
I kept thinking, has that been done on purpose?
I wonder if that affects, like, 'cause this is where I'm interested in getting to Act 3. Like, I can't wait to play it on Sunday, but it's like, I'm very interested to see where that step in narration has. And for anyone out there that has seen any streams, don't spoil anything in the chat. I know that there's apparently quite some impressive spoilers or some twists, some M. Night Shyamalan twists that people may or may not expect. Crob4r and I have our speculations. We won't really talk about it because I think it's more fun for you to play it yourself.
Yeah.
I would suggest, as we're saying, like, you start off in a locked room, and unless you start exploring every time you go into that room, the door doesn't open. But you have to go, and I guess now that I'm saying that, it's kind of a neat narrative thing where it's like, you have to be the person, and maybe this is what you're getting at. It's like, you have to be the person in charge of that. And I wonder if there's a punishment for not doing it. Like, I wonder if there's a good ending or a bad ending. You didn't make it.
Even like from a gameplay perspective, though, I thought, is this sort of an idea that some fans of this genre just want to go point and shoot? That's fine. I do 99% of the time. I just want to go point and shoot at things. Has that sort of inspired the whole thing about you can just turn around, get into the bed, and go back to a new level? You don't have to even take part in the story. You don't have to care about the story.
Well, think about this. It's like
the game.
So you said this is just what I'm thinking. You said the Diablo was one of the inspirations from the dev. So like, I don't know. Have you ever played much Diablo yourself?
Yeah.
So one of the reasons I don't play MMOs or games that require MMO style gameplays because I just refuse to sink 10,000 hours in, because I spent 10,000 hours playing Diablo 2. I got all the Hodos, man. I got high-end Hodos, I got all the soul. Anyway, whatever. When I think about it, I'm like, the way you're expressing this is very much the way that like possibly like a pro Diablo 2 player versus a novice Diablo 2 player would look at it. The novice Diablo 2 player talks to Kane about the Roderick Cube. The novice player talks to the the people of the realm and learn about the lore, whereas the person that's already gone through it is literally just min-maxing every interaction they have as they teleport through the game, just blowing everything up, like nuking everything from the sky, like
spin to win the whole way through.
Oh my god, it blocks poor Crow. I'm gonna move that. We can move that.
That's all right. I don't mind.
There we go. It's gonna go right here. It's even better here.
The reason why I asked you that was because I asked the dev that was that a purposeful decision to get it to do that. Oh god, leather. Was it done on purpose? Was it done that way on purpose? And they've come back and they've said. So I sent them. The story unfolds in a really unique way, and I'm a big fan of that. Was splitting the story from the gameplay, intentionally done in order to allow lore buffs to carry on learning about the world and the story, and allow purely gameplay-focused players just to jump straight back into the bed. And they came back with, I always wanted the story to be 100% optional because I know a lot of fans of these games don't really care about it.
Oh, perfect.
I still wanted a story to enrich the whole package and make progression feel even better. And I wanted it to be pretty obscure so players could try and come up with their own theories. It's got us.
Yeah.
The story has got us.
Yeah,
that's exactly
we got
what
bit.
we were doing earlier.
Some of the enemy design, or is there something else that could be plugged in here that fits a bit better?
Yeah, no, go for it. Yeah, we can do level design.
Just because, or not enemy design.
Enemy design, sorry. Yeah.
Go
for it.
The enemies are. I find the scaling of the enemies is really, really good. It's done in a way that whenever there's a new enemy, it only shows up because I think the game's designed to anticipate what you're going to do in the. And we'll get to the abilities. I think after enemies, that might be a good leeway, but. There's multiple ways to build your character, and I think the game kind of scales based on how much gold you're getting. And the dev knew that by the time you reach this act, no matter how many times you've died or redone it, you're probably going to have X amount of gold, which means at the very least you're going to have X amount of abilities. Almost every time I'm like, oh great, I got double jump. Oh great, I got grapple. The first thing that gets put in the game is an enemy that completely counteracts any gameplay that you benefited from with these new abilities. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a way that's like the game grows up with the character, and the enemies are a great way of kind of telling that story or kind of showing you your growth.
Yeah.
Because then by the time you
complements it.
Yeah, by the time you get some crazy weapon that levels up with you, then you start blowing up the low level enemies. The first thing he does, well, now enemies have armor. It's like, well, all right, that's difficult. So early on, much like most games, you get zombies and soldier hit. They're kind of like hit scanners. I think the soldiers with just like RNG shots, maybe not quite hit scanners, but they're kind of hard to avoid.
Very accurate, yeah.
They're very accurate, yeah. And you get a lot of. Yep.
I think you just hit the nail on the head with something you just said there as well. Oh, cool! They've came across one of the secrets, the Half-Life secret.
The microwave. Yep.
Yeah, we'll get onto that later. Yeah.
The secrets are great. Yeah.
I think that's. I think you hit the nail on the head with it whenever you said you get a weapon that, that grows up with you, and I've done that, and I mean, the guys who've been there, the guys that have been there for me playing it know that I've had the same shotgun from the beginning, and I've made a point now of I love it too much that I'm gonna keep it with me forever, and it kind of grows with you. And the game, I think, with the enemy design in particular, it does a fucking fantastic job of the first couple of times you're playing through levels giving you a god complex, as in making you think you're OP as hell, you're doing all right. Then the game counteracts
you. Yeah. Oh fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Every time.
It does the perfect balance of making you be like, oosh, and then a couple of levels later, like, oh fuck, I need to change my strat entirely.
I have in my current playthrough, I've got a legendary rocket launcher. It's amazing, but it has like 30% piercing. And the piercing's wicked because I can shoot through the necromancers. We'll get into the necromancers in a bit that summon skeleton armies. It can shoot to the middle of them, blow them all up. The problem is the minute you get the guys jumping in your face, scraping you, you can't do anything because the rocket shoots right through them. It becomes pointless. Hey, what's going on, Kyler? Nightmare Beaver.
Whenever those little pink bastards jump in front of you, the amount of times I've accidentally died from those little pink bastards, that has 100%.
Broseph Jones.
And you know what it is? It's Broseph. What's up? It's exactly that. It's exactly that. I get a good weapon. I suddenly think I've got, I have this god complex. I don't even think about what I'm shooting. I run around a corner, shoot a barrel in my own face, go, better be careful. And then those pink things are those, the giant, the big blob dudes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That through the pink things. I'll accidentally get cornered by them and I'll not have a way out. And, I've got a teleporting wizard to the left-hand side of me throwing fireballs, and I'm like, stop.
How many times did I die to
this?
How many times? So you get a lot of different enemies. The game kind of progresses on a good scale. You generally, I think the first elemental enemies you come across are the acid spitting enemies. They come in a flying form, and then they come in a stationary turret kind of form. And then you get the, what is it? The explosive guys. You get huge, basically bombs that explode and turn into a bunch of little guys that explode. And these enemies will litter the battlefield and you will have no idea where they're coming from. And so the early game, you're dealing with a lot of tight corridors and explosive enemies that are shooting acid with you. So it's encouraging you to jump away from the acid and the bombs. So in a very, very early on in the game, the enemies and the design are teaching you that you basically have to be kind of jumping backwards and around these enemies constantly because you need a lot of space to fight. I don't think there's any enemy that gives you any space. Most of them, especially as you progress, the enemies start getting, they run in your face. They start getting really, really oppressive. Monsters Animal, welcome on in.
Like they don't mess around at the start. Even the first few enemies, even in the little introduction bit, they're straight in your face. They're not messing. Those acid guys as well. Whenever you meet the first really big acid sort of dragon, I genuinely don't know the name for them, so I'm just gonna call them acid dragon. Whenever you meet the first big one and you realize that suddenly then they're just normal enemies, they're the ones that shoot the eggs, and the eggs will spawn as baby dragons, which will then eventually turn into medium-sized.
Oh, the baby dragons can be so annoying.
Yeah. It's like, you're like, oh damn, like you can get very overwhelmed very quickly if you don't suddenly control a fight.
So
you have to learn to focus on what's gonna get you, but it's so hard. It's easier said than done. You've got like I say, you've got a bunch of guys spitting acid at the top at you. You've got a wizard teleporting behind you. Nothing personal, kid. You've got the dudes running towards you, and you're like.
So the wizards end up being the next big problem you get introduced with. Kind of, I think they're introduced after you beat the halfway boss of Act 1. And these enemies, they remind me a lot of the Hexen 2 wizards, where they basically teleport around and they blast you. But these guys will teleport right behind you. So if you're in a corridor, like you opened a door and you see all the enemies, this enemy can teleport behind in the room that you were last in. So if you're not paying attention, you can get very incinerated by these things. Their DPS on their fire is absolutely absurd.
It's crazy. Yeah. Oh, it's so crazy. You're right.
So I think this kind of brings into the idea of the bosses. I think the system has a really cool idea with the bosses. I think, and I could be mistaken, but each boss ends up basically becoming an enemy later on, which is, in my mind, like the perfect kind of retro idea, like the retro scaling. Like, you fought this big bad guy, well, now he's actually just an enemy in the game. I'm like, fuck, that's so perfect. It feels so nostalgic in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that. It's almost like it's taught you how to deal with them, and then it's like, off you goes.
Yeah.
Speak, my child.
So it's like the first time you end up fighting the Chainer, and then the Chainer, I think, is the boss of Act 1. So I guess we should have said a bit of spoilers here, but we're basically talking everything Act 1 and 2. The game's been out for a year. If you haven't played Act 1 or 2, then I'm sorry if any of this spoils it. We're mostly just avoiding any talk of Act 3 because I think that's where the real spoilers are coming from today. So, if anyone,
And we're not
if
going to
anyone,
spoil story as well.
no, we're not
gonna spoil
touching. We're not
story.
touching any too much of our experience because as we had kind of mentioned, each experience will be a little bit different in how you interpret it, and I think that's the most important part is enjoying that aspect on your own. So yeah, the boss of Act 1 ends up being this chainer, and it oh no, spoiler, says Bro. So Dark Souls does that too. Yeah, we were actually
Exactly
mentioned a
what
little
I
bit
was
of Dark
thinking,
Souls.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah, we've mentioned a bit of Dark Souls in terms of design as well. I think it's when you get to the boss of Act 1, it's the chainer. That's when you feel it's unfair that he's got the chain, but in the next scene you get your own chain. So you have to. It's kind of, I don't know if you noticed, but you basically kill him and you take it. That's in my mind what the part of the story that gets left out. You rip it from his dead cold hands and you're like, well, fuck you.
I think like we touched on it. I think like whenever I had the email I got back from
I'm gonna get a
Dev,
drink. Keep going.
I think the whole thing about that it either does get resolved and we know why. They've just done my favorite trick of the barrel. Go to throw a barrel and think you're being really cool, throw it on the floor. That's exactly what I do. But they mentioned about they wanted it to be pretty obscure, the whole story thing, and they wanted people to come up with their own theories. I think it got us earlier. It's got you just there. You've just come up with the whole. I think you get the chain because you've killed the chain. You get the grappling hook after the chainer boss, and that's it. That's what it is. But I don't know. I don't know if there's a different meaning in it. I'm very much like, I don't know. There has to be something. But then, is there something that makes them think? Oh wow, a magical beer arrived. Good heavens! How did that
Holy
happen?
sh! Yeah, I meant to do this. My problem was I put 2 here, but I've already drank them. That's actually my issue. I thought I was being smart, but
I think that's exactly what it is. I think that's what you've just done, and it's nice that the story kind of ties in with the enemies, or allows you to think it does.
Yep.
I think that's really cool.
It's
the bosses.
Yes.
Man, whoa. The boss is hard to be fucked with.
Yes, yeah.
So,
I'm not gonna. I think we should talk about the abilities, then difficulty next. So let's talk about the bosses, but we'll let's hold the because I feel like this conversation's one and the same because the difficulty kind of ties in everything we're talking about, and I'm excited to get about it because it's a very interesting conversation, I think. But sorry, bosses.
Again, exactly what I do. Throw a barrel at myself, or like 80s Rock just said, I kick it for fun.
He came in my chat. He was like, "At least you don't do that." I was like, "Just watch me."
Oh, I'm like, try and stop me, kick barrel. So the bosses, the bosses are really cool actually.
Yep.
And like you say,
thanks. I like 80s Rock.
The fact that they turn into regular bosses, I think is pretty cool. Or regular enemies, is really cool. Like that Dark Souls sort of feeling to it. Without getting into difficulty, they're serious shit.
Well, I think
they're
in terms of game notes, this is easy.
Sort of enemy. As well as that, though, I've went into some boss fights, and the mechanics are awesome. I've went into some boss fights and genuinely been like, oh shit, this dude has phases. And I've been like really surprised by some of it. I don't know about you. Like the ice dude, the ice dude who has like the red armor.
Yep. Those things are fucking mean. Well, that's another example of where the game you get the grappling hook, you've got the double jump, you're flying around the map now. Now you've got this guy that's literally shooting a laser beam that if it hits the wall behind you, if anything goes near you. So what I don't know if you got to it, but he is like the mid boss. There's like a big version of him he's got 3 different versions of himself. That is the fight you're talking about. Yeah. So that was the one that I accidentally nuked because I just had 4 guns that were all just like completely OP.
Yeah.
But if you're and much like all the bosses, if you're not anticipating them, you are, unless you're extremely lucky and you clean the map up really well, you're gonna die the first time you come across
Yeah.
it, because
Oh yeah.
it's very rare, I think, that people are prepared for that one enemy left on the map the first time you come across it, and you're like, oh, one enemy left. It's like, well, here's the exit room.
Yeah.
Boom, you're dead.
Yeah.
And the bosses are fierce. They generally just have these huge AoE attacks that fill up the room, or they just run straight to you, and it's like they close the gap, you know?
Yeah. It very much forces you. It's like, all right, we've taught you all that you need to know. Go. There you go. And you're like, please no, crying child. I'm not sure if that's a crying child or not. I'm not sure, but that's all. That's, you know, that could be story. I don't know. It gets pretty cool though. I think.
No, it's great, and I won't spoil because you haven't gotten there too. But the Act 2 boss ends up just like escalating even more.
Oh Jesus, I'm scared.
So we'll, I think now we can bleed in now, that, especially the ads up here. So what you guys are seeing up in the corner here is is actually the abilities menu, which is going to be probably a little off-putting for anyone that hasn't watched any of the game footage yet. You might be wondering what exactly you're watching, but the dev decided to go a bit of a different route with your abilities, and they programmed this entire Nintendo DS or SD. Not DS.
Nightmare DS is what I like to call it.
Nightmare DS. So it's a little tiny Game Boy that has its own game in it where you play your own character as Mario, basically. And it progresses very, I don't want to say very much. I think it's next to identical to Game Boy Advance SP. Thank you very much, Bake CD. I think it's virtually identical to Mario 3, Super Mario 3 on NES. And it's a lot of fun, and I'll tell you. So you know how we were joking about the costs of things? So I actually,
oh yeah,
I made it to World 6 based on my money gaining ability, my plan.
I got the World 6 too, yeah.
Fuck,
yeah,
it's
I filled every single one of them. I got every single world.
And you're in World 6.
Every
God
single
damn.
one of the skills. And I'm World 6. Yeah, so carry on with yours, sorry.
Well, no, I was just gonna say
I'll get to mine.
So the let me go back here. Can I go back here real quick on this video? I just want to see if I can pinpoint kind of the map here. Where's my video source? Here we go. Where was it? Here we go. I'll pause it right here. So this is kind of what you're
in the Nightmare Reaper juice right now.
Oh, it's good. It's good. Mario 3. Yeah. So this is what the maps look like, and each one of the levels ends up being, the level itself upon a completion gives you an ability. So whether that ability is like you can hold more ammo, or you can move quicker, or your kick is better, whatever the case may be, or like you can collect more money with it, for instance. So this ends up being a really kind of good way to balance your abilities. But based on, so this is the thing that ended up happening is, because I played this game before, I decided to go straight for the money gain and try to see if I could gain as much money as possible. And basically what you're telling me is that that did absolutely nothing, because I'm in World 6 as well, and I have not completed everything in every other world.
So I don't know how you played your playthrough, because you've played it so many times. I don't know how you did it.
Yep.
But the way I did mine was I went through every level, and pretty much I'd say 95% of the levels I 100%ed.
Yep.
So I made sure to get all secrets, all treasure, everything like that. Again,
Damn.
that could be an RNG thing as well.
No, I don't think it is.
I just got more secrets. I don't know how many, if there's a limit.
No, I don't
it's
think,
probably 4, but
I don't think any of the game, this game is RNG. I think this is all I think this is cut and paste across the game.
Yeah. So with the skills, I think what you were gonna get at is I think World 6. So you can see there, I think that's World 2?
3 maybe? World 2?
2, 3, yeah. I can't remember. But the price gradually increases per item based on the world you're in. And it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense that it does that. But then, like you, I hit World 6, and suddenly they were all 500,000 each.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was like, what? But on the flip side of that, and again, this might just be the way that I'd played it, I always ended up doing the whole. I always ended up doing the whole getting. I got distracted, so I would get distracted, play
Hey,
through a
Nerdveric,
ton of
welcome in.
levels, maybe 6 or 9 levels, 69, 6 or 9 levels, and then realize I've got so much money, and I kind of forgot, and now I need to stop for like 10 or 15 minutes and just do a bunch of skills.
Yeah, it's kind of nice that way because the skills don't necessarily change the gameplay too much, but they change it enough once you get some of the bigger ones. So, like,
Oh yeah,
there's a few. So you get abilities and stuff through this. We can kind of talk about those. We've been kind of glancing over them the whole time when we're talking about the level design, the enemies. Yeah. But you get 3 kind of core abilities leading up to the end of Act 2, which is you get dash ability, you get a grappling hook, and you get the accessibility to double jump. And yeah, we'll get into weapons after this, right? And then double jump. And each one of those things is kind of like a relatively big game changer in terms of how the game plays and the game is designed.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
I'm interested because I feel like based on this, there's probably going to be at least another ability that's going to be possibly packed in the next part of the game because it seems to be like progressing that way. I don't know what that would be though.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, the one thing that the whole way through that I was like, I wish I could take another weapon. I want to take another weapon with me.
So I was going to talk about my favorite ability, which is the one where you can take level 2 weapons.
Yeah. I thought that was nice, except I still stuck with my level 1 legendary shotgun. Because it was legendary.
So yeah, because it was legendary. You get sometimes they're just wicked. So I think in kind of talking about this, it kind of brings up the idea of in the levels. This is kind of the thing we kind of maybe we'll talk about this later. I think we should maybe talk about the weapons, get into that because I was thinking about more secrets, but I think that ties in afterwards. I think that's better later.
Well, with the skills. Sorry,
skills, yes.
Backtrack a bit.
No, I want you to backtrack. I lost what I was talking about.
That's all right. With the skills, yeah, Stereo Bucket's correct. It literally, if you come to watch me play Nightmare Reaper, you're literally watching me bring that shotgun with me and get very scared at the start of every level.
Why do I have
because
this?
The shotgun is not great in an open area in Act 2. But the skills, I was so excited whenever I got double jump. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I was like, this is the game is just exponentially exploded in terms of verticality for me. I know I have the grappling hook, but now I can get the head start. I can get straight ahead. I can and then dash, and then you can upgrade your dash by making it
got a megasphere
invulnerability. Oh, we got a megasphere, making an invulnerability dash. Cheers.
Don't get a hangover. I don't think Crob4r gets hangovers. I don't think Crob4r does hangovers.
I definitely do, but I know how to get rid of them.
Thanks, guys. Sorry.
The invulnerability dash,
yes,
I think was the biggest life changer for me. I used that in so many of my strats against the harder bosses, like that ice dude. You know, the super laser extraordinaire Iceman. I managed to get past him, the dude in the big armor, the 3-phase guy.
I'll be honest, I skipped it. I've never used dash the whole game.
It was I picked it up purposefully for bosses as well, and the chain guy, I was able to smash through him because I could just dash around. He couldn't hit me, so I was just constantly freezing him with the shotgun.
Well,
my legendary shotgun.
The double jump, so
around in circles.
Something you and I kind of talked about a little bit was how the game grows with you, and we made a note here, but like, so it's great. You get the double jump and you get the grappling hook, but the immediate thing that they start doing is they throw enemies that are snipers. They throw enemies that grapple hook you and they pull you from the sky. They have enemies that shoot big AoE attacks. So you get all these nice little benefits, but at the same time you get fucking knocked down a peg the minute you walk into an arena and realize your double jump is not going to help you. The best it's going to do is get you out from being surrounded by like 4 guys attacking you.
It's you're so right. You're so right. As soon as you said about the snipers, my in-head footage of the game, of me being, me being a god and double jumping and dashing everywhere.
Once you grapple
just
somewhere,
straight away, it's just went.
it takes the whole
complex just got punched straight.
Takes the
down,
whole
man.
wind out
And
of your
yeah.
sails. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it totally does, and I love the game for that too, because I'm like, fuck, now I need to find cover instead of charging in. But also I need to charge in, pick off these guys, but I need to take the snipers out first.
Yeah.
But there's acid above.
But and then there's this
fire wizard behind
There's
me.
this super buff dude that's shooting ice beams, and he's coming to get me, like this big ass motherfucker.
Yeah, he's
goddamn.
He is tanky. That dude
yeah.
is tanky.
Yeah, he actually he's one of the
man.
few enemies that reminds me of. There's an enemy in Viscera Fest. It's like a big chicken guard. There, it reminds me very similarly of this particular enemy in Viscera Fest. And I know these games are kind of have a similar development cycle, if I'm not mistaken.
Funnily enough, he reminded me of, if I can remember his name. I don't know why. The dude in the red armor. We're talking about the dude in the red armor with the like ice beam thing.
Yep. Oh yeah. He's like the baddest enemy.
He does like rapid fire ice as well, doesn't he?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He reminds me for some reason of the Lich King, as in from World of Warcraft.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know why. I think it's because it looks like he has white hair. Whenever eventually you break down his armor.
Right. Yeah. He's like a big meat boy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. He's just a big chunky white-haired boy, and he's just like.
Ooh, I'll play it again. Yeah, we're not talking about abilities anymore. We can go on. Thanks, Big CD. Hey, Mopey Bloke. Welcome on in.
Not dressed for the occasion, so unprofessional. I'm so sorry, Mopey Bloke. I've just come straight from my own suit stream, where Stereo Bucket chose the color of shirt and tie, so that's why I've got a pink shirt on with red and green buttons.
Is it red? What is that? Pink or salmon? It's a nice shirt. You look good in that color.
Oh yeah, it's a good shirt. I was surprised actually.
I look good in it. The buttons are a bit of a turn off, but I'm not.
I mean, they're square as well.
I'm not looking to get turned on, I suppose. The salmon.
It's
the shirt's slamming regardless.
Thank you. That's very kind.
So I think now we can talk about the weapons, bro. So it's light red. Okay, we got
light red. Thank you.
This is going to be the conversation of the stream now. The color of the shirt. So yeah, I think this bleeds kind of into weapons. The basically the weapons are all think of Borderlands. That's the easiest way I can discuss the weapons. There's like a bunch of weapon types: swords, axes, guns. Like pretty much, I think that the rule of thumb is there's 80 weapons. Pretty much any weapon you can think of, including
there's 58 in early access, so we've only seen 58.
So there's 30 more
80
weapons.
In the full.
420. Yeah. Bakesy D just got me on the 420 uptime. Thank you, Bakesy D.
Which is, wow, 420, damn. So there's only 58 that we've seen.
So that's even better.
In the full game. Yeah.
So
I mean, that's cool.
The weapons are they're very much from like you could have a sword and shield to you could have like a 4-barreled rocket launcher from like Resident Evil or something blowing shit up. And most of these weapons have secondary attacks. So if you think there's 80 weapons, there's 80 secondaries to them all as well. So there's at least 160 different attack modes for any weapon. Now on top of this, there's I think 60 modifiers. Do you have the number there?
30 different
30 modifiers.
Yeah.
So that means at any given time, because you can have a maximum of 4 modifiers on one weapon, it basically creates like, I wouldn't say infinite, but I wouldn't want to do the number on the amount of combinations of different types of weapons you could get. It would be pretty.
Yeah.
You're about to look it up, and he's like, no, I don't want to look it up.
I was about to start it, and I was like, no.
Nah, it's not worth it.
I'm not working.
It's more. It's probably more than. It's probably about the same amount as like. Yeah, it's insane.
You said there's 50 plus enemies. Wow.
That's a lot. It's astronomical. Yeah, it's a lot of numbers. So
yeah,
what's really cool that is you can find really good weapons that suck or really sucky weapons that end up being really good. And the game kind of punishes you one way or the other, depending on how it feels. So my playthrough started off with, I had a legendary level 1 knife that had homing and did a bunch of bleed damage, and it did lightning damage, and it did knockback. It was like amazing. The problem was about 10 levels in or 12 levels in, one of the secret guys sold it to, or bought my gun for like 200,000 gold. I was like, I got to get rid of it. But
oh man.
So what ends up happening is for the first, I would say, 40% of the game, you're forced to basically take, you're allowed to take a level 1 gun at the end of each level. So in a level, you might pick up anywhere from 4 to 10 guns in a level.
Oh god, yeah. Yeah.
You might pick up, and they all have rarities. There's gray, green, blue, gold, which are from 0 to 60. It's common to uncommon to rare to legendary, and I think the modifier stats are just relevant to whatever it is. That's 100 subs as you promised. I see 2 nuts here. Oh wow, Vlam, rude.
Vlam. I did say, Vlam, that there would be 100 celebrities here.
Well,
but
Flam,
only exactly 100. If there were any missing, then we couldn't have them on, and there only 99 of them turned up.
Listen, Vlam won a Steam key earlier, and I just as easily could not send it to them with all this attitude right now.
Do you need to aim vertically in this game? Yeah.
Oh,
sure,
you have to, absolutely. The game really wants you to use every aspect of the level. Like when you look at this cavern here, let me look at this. Pause this on this cavern. So when I look at this cavern, by the time you get to the second world, you have the grappling hook, and even then the chainsaws. We're talking about weapons. The chainsaws have grappling hooks as well, so you can get access to the grappling hook easy. When I see this level, I can grapple all along the ceiling. If I have a chainsaw or the grapple ability, I can go anywhere here, and I can hold on with the chainsaw and jump to another area. These weapons are really versatile, and they're very cool. Like the chainsaw, yet again, for instance, if you're on a wall, you can chainsaw the wall, and it slows your descent down the wall. Like that's a really interesting feature.
So many times in my streams where people were screaming at me and saying, "Use the chainsaw. What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh yeah,
it's a good weapon.
I can climb with that. Yeah, why am I not just climbing with that? I can and you can. It's a fucking chainsaw."
So like,
so it's like
a great modifier combination, because this is what this game kind of relies on. And the problem is with the RNG, you can't really have any effect over it, but some modifiers and weapons go together so fucking well that it can create these kind of like god tier weapons. I don't think I've really seen one yet, but like, let's say you have a chainsaw with knockback 4. Well, you can literally just use your chainsaw, and with the knockback, you fly around the map. Because you're just using your chainsaw as an accelerant, and you can go in any direction. 3D planes, you can fly anywhere around the map, and it can stun lock tanky enemies.
Exactly. I didn't know that was actually a thing. I didn't know if that was true or not, but I had it happen to me a few times, and I was like, oh damn.
A few times.
I didn't know if that was
sorry.
A few times. I had that happen a few times, and I was like, I don't know if that's like just me being lucky and I'm just happen to be stun locking them, or is this actually stun locking them? Because as soon as I got behind them, that sort of became my go-to thing, was stun lock them. Oh,
if you get a chainsaw that has, like, let's say 30 to 40% increased attack speed, you can basically melt any enemy at all in like 2 seconds. It's kind of crazy.
Dude, I got one yesterday with a 50% attack speed.
Oh, it's like it's just like.
And it was just a fucking. It was just. Imagine like adding chainsaw blades to the end of a minigun barrel. You're not going to shoot them. You're just going to spin it. That was how fast it went. It was just crazy.
Like
likewise though.
Yep.
The bad enchantments I've had. I had a chainsaw once.
Yes.
You said about the push. I got one that had pull.
Oh, see? That pull on a melee.
As soon as I fired it, I launched myself into the lava.
Happens to the best of us.
Horrifying.
So
It was horrifying.
if anyone, and we'll talk about a little bit about this because this still bleeds into the difficulty, but if anyone is listening to this, I'm sure you're hearing this and going, wow, it's like the RNG seems to work either for you or against you. And this is, I think when it comes to Nightmare Reaper, this is going to be the overarching conversation that pulls the whole game together one way or the other. And I think that this is the conversation that's going to make people either like it or not like it. So it's going to be nice to get into that. But like the weapons are really interesting because of the type of weapons. Like here's an interesting combination I had mentioned. I've got a level 1. I've got a level, sorry, it's a level 2 rocket launcher. Same one he has. It's a 2-shot. Mm-hmm. It is piercing. So I'm able to shoot large groups of enemies and shoot my rocket right into the middle of them without the rocket hitting the first enemy. How come that's not working? Thank you very much for the host. Sorry, that didn't come up. Let me check something out here. Oh, it might have come up there and I didn't see it. Sorry.
Yeah, because they've even just rocket jumped there as well.
Yeah, and
I think I realized you could rocket jump, but I think I also might have damaged myself too much and then got scared about.
You have a lot of options with mobility, so it's in my mind, it's not like you need to rocket jump. It's certainly a fun feature to have from a movement point of view. It's in there, but I think the movement is so big that you don't necessarily need to rely on rocket jump.
Oh yeah.
On the video feed, perfect. Thanks, Steve.
The common and the rare and you know the sort of rarity of the weapons as well. I noticed that I found a bunch of weapons that I've never found since. I've only found them once or twice. So I got a minigun once.
Yep, those are good.
And that thing was incredible. It was only a common one. I got a common howitzer.
Yeah, see, I must be a little further because I'm getting like legendary chain guns and legendary howitzers now. So chain guns are interesting, much like the chainsaw. If you get a chain gun with knockback, you can fly around with the chain gun and just like blast things. So you can shoot yourself to the corner of the room and you can just unload on everything. It's a lot of fun. It's not necessarily like the penultimate like combat that you want to get into. The beefer punch. That's when they became the beefer punch. Yeah, Power Possum, welcome on in. Thanks very much for showing up. We're having a conversation. Sorry to interrupt there. I'll jump in. If anyone doesn't know, as you can see, we're doing a conversation about Nightmare Reaper launch weekend. It's going to be releasing March 28th. There's a link that's been coming up. If you stick around in the chat, a link will come up for you to go purchase the game, and we'll be giving away a copy of the Steam key today as well. Are you also going to be play together against each other? So I don't know about multiplayer. We'll maybe talk about that a little later. That might be a good question for Mr. Crob4r. He's got some ideas. He's talked to the dev. He definitely has, you know what? Hang around till the end. We'll tell you. It's exciting secret, Flam. Hang around till the end. The very end. It's going to be the last thing we talk about. Trust me.
Absolute end. Yeah, the very last minute. I will tell you the answer to it.
So if you haven't figured it out, this is right above me. This is our beloved friend Crob4r, twitch.tv/Crob4r. If you haven't given him a follow yet, I'll do a shout out right here. Crob4r is an absolute homeboy. Reaper, so why isn't there no Reaper 2?
God damn it, man.
Yeah, Mutt's got a good point. So we've been talking a lot about the game development. We've talked about the game design, and we've talked about kind of how the game operates. We're kind of reaching the point where we're going to have kind of more of a grander conversation about it, but we're just kind of finishing up the conversation. I think we're kind of doing weapons into secrets, I think is kind of the last kind of part of the main game that we need to talk about. I don't know. Do we have anything more to say about the weapons? I personally like the feel. We haven't talked about this. Like this, you said the shotgun, for instance. There is no greater feeling than shotgunning something right in the fucking face when it connects, and they pop in this pixelated fucking pile of goo.
Or you hit them, and they do that whole like that thing that you would see in Brutal Doom. You know, where they're like holding their throat, or they just start shaking for a minute, and then they just detonate.
Thanks for the follows, Broseph. Or have you ever seen them when you blow them up so much, they stay pixel and they just flip around the map?
Yeah.
So funny.
Oh god, I love that so much.
So secrets are almost always cracks in the wall. Yeah, pretty much 9 out of... Yes. I think they're all cracks in the wall.
And wind blowing.
And wind blowing.
And wind blowing, yep. That's, I think that's pretty much it. What was the best
Battle Pass one?
Ever got?
Oh, and let's talk about blood weapons for a second. So you can actually another modifier
Yeah.
is you can use your and this always kills me. You can use your blood as ammo, but the problem is if you didn't pay attention to that and it becomes your auto, it just goes in your auto slot.
I did
Next
that,
thing you know,
yep.
you're dead because the weapon had blood ammo and you didn't fucking pay attention.
Yeah, I did that. I did that once. The first time I got them. But yeah, what was your favorite weapon? Even if
Well,
you couldn't have brought it with you,
listen,
what was it?
I'll tell you right now, the one that I had, and you probably haven't seen this gun yet.
Blood for the blood god.
It's the quad shotgun. It is
Oh
so
my.
it's basically a sawed-off shotgun with 4 barrels.
Oh.
It can do 4 shots, or you can R2 to get 4 one-shot, and it basically one-shots any enemy at close. You go close range, boof. Even the armored enemies, it's pretty much one shot, and they're completely vaporized.
I'm pitching tints right now.
I can't wait. You play it for another couple hours, you will get the quad shotgun starting to show up. They're very good. Or another gun that I haven't gotten to play with yet. I picked up the black hole launcher. So the black hole launcher, you shoot it basically kind of in the middle of an arena, and it sucks all the enemies and crushes them. So so this is where you got to combo weapons, right? So if you have the black hole launcher suck everything in, you have a rocket launcher. You can shoot a rocket right into the middle of the black hole, and it blows up all the enemies.
See, that's perfect though, because like with a gun like that, as OP as hell as it sounds, and fucking awesome as it sounds, you couldn't take that with you to the next map.
No, because that's a level 3. It'd be a level 3 weapon as well.
Even if you had a let's say you had a level 3, enhancement, you could, or level 3 upgrade for it. You couldn't, like, it wouldn't be worth bringing that.
No,
because it can't actually do the damage. You'd have to hope and pray that you're going to find something else as well before you get to an enemy.
So here's another,
like kicking them to death.
Here's another cool weapon I'm just seeing. So this guy, if anyone's been seeing this, he's got a red cube and a blue cube. This might be one of the. There's a number of really cool weapons, and when I mean cool, I mean weapons that, who would have thought about implementing this in the game?
Yeah.
So basically, these cubes are what I would describe as Pokemon. If you get an enemy weak enough, you can trap them in the red cube, and then you get access to the blue cube, and the blue cube can whip out as many as you can have mana that summons them. So let's just watch a second here. I'm pretty sure he's going to summon a dude. He's going to try to capture... See, there's him capturing a soldier. Doesn't work. He's going to try again.
It's not... Oh, there we go. Yeah.
He's got to weaken him. Come on. Oh, he kicked him once. Kicked him twice. Trapped. Okay, so now he's got the blue cube. Now let's see what he's going to do with it. I'm pretty sure there's a group of enemies in this next area. He's just going to throw it out. I'd love to show you. Yeah, so there it is. He's throwing out 3 balls, and look what happens. He summoned 3 soldiers with gray triangles that are now fighting for him in this arena. Absolutely crazy.
So, I love that you pointed this out, because my favorite weapon, although I never brought it with me, I call these, because these are called trap cubes, right?
Okay.
Or puzzle cubes or something, aren't they? I can't remember.
I think trap cube sounds right. Yeah.
Was one of these, but it was enhanced with plus 25% projectile size, which
so you made big boys?
It made big boys.
Wow.
It made big boys.
Holy shit, that's incredible.
It was so sick.
I've never come across these with a modifier on it before.
Yeah, it was so cool. So I from that point onward, I've always been really excited to get these, and I call them friendship cubes.
The friendship cube.
Or mandatory friendship cubes.
Did you come across the Necromancer's wand?
Which one's that?
It gives you the same abilities as the Necromancer in the Act 2. You can summon as many skeletons as you have mana to summon them.
Yes, yeah. I got that. I was really excited running around with the bony boys.
It was super cool. I found that for the most part they just got nerfed by AoE explosions immediately.
They're good decoys.
Well, really you'll learn that.
Throw in their room and then you get a corner somewhere.
Munt says my uncle works at Sega and says that all of Japan and Bosnia love the Bullgut from 1998. Sugar, Matt. Okay, that's great.
Wow, from Shogo.
Wow. I saw that. I see that box art back there. I've been eyeing it the whole time. So overall, like we could, I honestly could safely say we could talk about weapons for a while. I think the weapons feel
hell
really
yeah,
good.
yeah.
The diversity is really good, and I love the draw in and payback. Like you get something really good, but it has one really terrible flaw.
Yeah.
And the question is it worth it? And a lot of that comes down to, this question, is it worth? And even with, like, you see this guy jumping, he's getting a secret right now, or he's getting one of the secret chests. I oftentimes wonder if these are worth it, depending on how hard the level was. And I go, you could just as easily die doing this as you could fighting a room full of 20 enemies.
You see, I did that exact same puzzle, but I didn't have double jump.
Are these the? I was gonna say that when we're done talking about weapons, I guess this is now. I was gonna say this is the perfect time to start talking about this. So there's kind of in level currency. There's in level shops, I guess, or retailers. There's like there's like kind of between. There's two aspects of the levels we didn't talk about. The in-game retailers, I think, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, the very odd.
And the actual secrets itself.
The glitchy face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can get this. You can get two things that come up. Sometimes you get an orb that allows you to basically roll a roulette. You give it $500. You hit the thing. Something random comes out. You either get an enemy, you get a weapon, you get a health, you get money, you get whatever. Sometimes you get a weird kind of trench coat. He kind of reminds me of the merchant from Resident Evil. He's like, "Hey, what are you buying?
Yeah. The way he's
what are you selling?" So I'll let you explain him. He's probably the most interesting part of the because he's not necessarily a secret, but he's right up there, I think. And we'll talk. I think we should talk about the dog and the Doom guy. But he's kind of right up there with things that you come across that are relatively interesting. So how does he work?
So sometimes and this is in a random room after you've cleared it, you'll hear a really weird sound effect. I don't really know how to even explain the sound effect, to be honest. But you'll turn around and you'll find somewhere in that room there's a trench coat with a really glitchy face. You can't actually make out the face. And he can do I think it's 3 different things, and they're all random, so you can only do one of these things whenever you meet him. He can change a weapon from common to rare, or change a weapon's rarity. He can change a stat or an enchantment on a weapon, or he can reroll a stat on a weapon. I think that's the 3.
He'll buy your most used weapon. Sorry, that was the second one.
Oh, yes,
said. That's the 4th one. Yeah,
that was it. Yeah, he'll buy it. Yeah, he'll buy it. Yeah. That's right. He'll buy your most used weapon for a lot of money.
So I think that's probably my favorite part, because I think he'll give you more money for the longer you've used the weapon.
Yes, he will. Yeah,
I think it stacks
with you.
Yeah, because I sold my level 1 knife in Act 2. I think it was like $225,000. I was like, how could I not sell it for 225,000 gold? I don't think I'll ever make that amount of money in this game ever.
So at the end of every level, you get to pick, like it says, choose one level 1 to 2 level to keep.
Make rare plus copy.
One level 1 to 2 weapon to keep. You get to pick. Make rare plus copy. That was it. Yes, thank you, Bruce. I knew there was another one. And yeah, that's also the sound. But that sounds more like Patrick. With wee. So you get, at the very end of the level, you only get to pick and keep one weapon with you. You don't get to bring all the weapons. So all the rest gets sold. So if you were going to get rid of your weapon anyway, your most used weapon, he offers so much more money for it than the end of level 1 would. Buy it so much.
So Stereo Bucket, we haven't seen what comes out with Act 3, but I feel like that's probably one of the next abilities. That, to me, that makes the most sense. Because, like, remember earlier, Crob4r, I was like, hypothetically, there has to be a 4th ability, but I don't know what that 4th ability would be within the framework of how the game works, because I think mobility is pretty much covered at this point in time. So I feel like a Take-Two upgrade probably makes the most sense to be one of the more things.
There's the Richter Belmont special. One of my
that weapon's crazy. Set it on fire. Go do what you want.
Yeah.
So
That
now
might be with the full release. Oh, Bruce. Oh.
there's a couple other little things that happen in levels, events, I guess. So we'll talk about the
Yeah.
one that everybody goes on about. It's been on Twitter. It gets memed about all the time. It's probably the only meme from this game I think that's going to come. But the doggo, there is for whatever reason, after you clear a level, much like the mysterious man with a tilted hat, there can be just a dog that shows up that just sits there and he looks at you and he just, you can go over and you can pet him. But at the same time, what ends up happening is he spawns a whole bunch of dog treats around the map. And if you can collect all the dog treats, he gives you money for it. And if you get all the dog treats, he gives you like an extra bonus reward on top of that. Super cute little secret.
So,
shows up very rarely.
I didn't realize because he spawned halfway through a level for me.
Yep.
Hey, look, there's another Easter egg. There's Duke Nukem.
Is that one of the secrets? Yeah.
Yeah,
the bust?
So one of the secrets. Yeah, the secrets have a very random chance to be an Easter egg, and I found a bunch of random ones, and they're great Easter eggs as well. But anyway, the doggo.
Yep.
So, good boy, 10 out of 10 doggo, best boy ever.
Don't hurt him. Yeah.
Is absolutely my favorite. No, never hurt doggo. Why would you even think of that? You should never even.
I
think
had
of
a
that.
bunch of enemies blowing up today, and I found out the back end of blowing up the dog. It wasn't my fault. I don't blame me,
No,
but
that's unacceptable.
so
The doggo, I
yep.
didn't realize the dog bones spawn in every room.
yes,
I
there's
thought they just spawned a few of them and that was it. So I just kept petting them and gave him a couple of dog bones and kept petting him.
that's still
So
a nice
really
time
happy.
though. It's still a nice time.
I hated the fact that he whimpers though.
Oh,
Like if it made me so sad. I was like, no, doggo, come with me on my adventure.
come and join me.
And interestingly enough,
Whoa, J-Rod's coming in.
Wow, you get J-Rod. Speaking of the doggo,
Speaking of the
J-Rod
doggo,
is the only person.
yeah.
The only person I've seen that has accidentally shot. The
no,
doggo.
see, I'm pretty sure the clip I saw, he went up behind it with the AK and he just unloaded. That's the clip
He
I
just
saw.
went,
Like my experience of
"Dog."
seeing that clip is that I get the
Yeah.
impression that J-Rod hunts the dog down.
That's
It's part of his. It's
Yeah.
part of J-Rod.
Yeah,
I'm just
that's-
basing this off of what a morpher told me.
it makes sense. I mean, it sounds like something J-Rod
So-
would do, to be honest.
But so there's.
I've got a special thing for you though about the doggo.
Okay, yeah, let's hear it. This is exciting.
Yeah. So I emailed one of my
I
questions.
figure. I was
to the
hoping.
dev.
I didn't
Was-
say anything, but I was fucking hoping. Yeah, yeah.
One of my questions to the dev was, "What's the doggo's name?" Are you ready for this?
I'm gonna write it down.
I don't
yeah.
think you are. I think it's gonna blow your mind.
Okay.
I really do. Are you ready?
Yeah. I wouldn't be disappointed.
The response was, "I'm not at liberty to say."
Motherfucker. It burn. Can we ban?
Yeah.
I'm gonna ban it burn from this channel. It burn's done.
It hurt me. It hurt
It
me.
burn
I
is
was like,
done.
I
So
just want to love the dog.
We've got,
Give me its name.
the next two spoilers, and these yet again, these are mostly spoilers. But if you played any of Act 1 or 2, write that down, DG. I don't have to. So I feel like let's not go over the Easter eggs. I feel like anyone playing the game, there's a ton of fun FPS retro Easter eggs.
Yeah.
I don't think we
Lots
should
of
talk
cool
about
Easter
them.
eggs.
It's a fun thing to experience yourself. It's a fun thing to question and wonder where they came from. But there's two more kind of fun things that get added. Have you come across either the chickens or the bunnies?
Mm-hmm. Both. Yeah, both.
Did you decide to
the-
shoot the bunny?
Hell yes.
And did you suffer the
It's the next-
consequences of
it's
shooting
next
the bunny?
question. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was about to say. it's
you
the next
suffered the
question,
fucking
did I immediately
consequences.
regret it?
that is the
Fuck yeah, I did.
that is so fucking wicked, man. So what happens is
yeah.
what happens is you get either gold chickens or gold bunnies that will show up. They make the same twinkling sound as if the magic merchant shows up. Now, I don't think there's any negative consequences from hunting down the chickens, I'll be honest. I think they're the one few thing that
No,
doesn't
there's
have
not,
like
no.
it doesn't have a duality to it, but if you shoot the bunnies, before we spoil it, because I'm gonna go grab a beer, I'm gonna let the chat sit for a second here. Does anybody know any famous bunnies? Any famous bunnies in the retro
Any famous
FPS
bunnies
community?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. Very good question. Monty Python. Wow. Monty Python's a very famous bunny in the retro FPS community. Guys, that's fair. That's fair.
Now, if you're thinking about it, Arthurian Legend both has the... we got a right answer here, Kyler.
Oh, yeah, we have a right answer. Yep.
So, the gold bunny is Daisy from everyone's beloved Doom 2. And can anyone guess what happens if you frag Daisy?
Well, there's a chance that it happens if you frag Daisy.
I was thinking Arthurian Legends, J-Rod.
Not only does Daisy spawn, tons of Daisies spawn.
Oh, lots of them.
And there's a chance whenever you shoot any of them that our friendly neighborhood.
The Doom guy shows up with a plasma rifle. He's literally SR50ing around you, and he's no scoping 360ing your ass. And if you kill 2 or 3 bunnies, you know what you've got? You've got fucking 4 or 5 Decino and Zero Masters hunting you down as quickly as they fucking possibly can. And if you're not goddamn ready for it, I gotta tell you right now, you're gonna have thy flesh consumed. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, they don't fuck about. And the thing is that they literally they like run around and you're like, what the hell's that noise? No, you hear.
Oh, they have a noise. Yeah.
Then there's just a fucking rocket coming straight for you.
Yeah, they're armed with Doom gear, and they are not happy that you killed Daisy. They're not happy at all.
They're ready to mess you up.
That was probably one of the biggest fun surprises. The kind of throwback surprises to come across is Doom Guy. I'm hoping that there's even more of that kind of added by Act 3, because I think it's stuff like that kind of gets lost with some of the retro community stuff. Not community, but retro shooter. There's a certain amount of personality where like people maybe want to try to make their game too much like to be the next Quake or the next whatever, and they put so much grit into it, and I'm like, you know what this game has? It's got the grit, it's got the violence, but it also has the fucking fun and personality to be able to do both really well.
It has character. It adds so much character to it. The Easter eggs, the fact that all the Easter eggs are throwbacks, you know, to the point of there are Easter egg weapons in some of these secrets that you find.
Oh right, I was gonna say, but I won't, because it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and it's a cool weapon, and as soon as you find it, you'll be like, God damn it, I know what that's from. That's amazing. The fact that it adds, you know, they do that. It takes itself seriously. The game takes itself seriously, but it knows, you know, its roots, and I like that. I really like that.
Yep.
It adds so much to the game.
Well, and as we said, kind of with some of the secrets and some of kind of the stuff you come across, like the Easter eggs, we'll call them. You'll know that it's kind of weird. It's kind of like a tip of the hat, like it's fan service in a way that's like, if you've been a part of the community, you're on Twitter or you're hanging out with these people.
You mean it?
Oh, it burned. No problem. We're not even done yet. You might not get out of this. You might not get out of this unscathed. We still love you though.
Yeah.
They still love the game. I think this is a fair time to bring up a criticism that we both kind of talked about and we've discussed a little bit, not necessarily thoroughly. And I think we both are kind of on the same page with how we feel about it. But the music is dynamic in a way that it gets louder the more intense the combat is, and then it becomes completely silent when there's no combat. And this is nice sometimes, but the silence can be quite deafening in a lot of areas in a game where you've just gone from killing 30 enemies in a room to just...
Yeah, I completely agree. The place that it caught me out, like the first couple of levels, you know, whenever you go into a room and there's maybe only like 5 or 6 enemies, you get just a taste of the sound of the soundtrack, and then by the time it's, because it's sort of like not reverb, I can't even think of the correct word, but it essentially bubbles in. It fades in, but it fades in.
It gets warmer and warmer,
and then it fades in. Yeah, and it's there, and then you've killed those 5 enemies by the time sort of 30 seconds of the soundtrack's gone, and it just bubbles itself out again.
Or
and
you
then
fight
you've got
one
this really
enemy.
low ambience.
You fight one enemy, it comes in and goes out.
Yeah, and for me, I was like, damn, am I missing soundtrack, or like, am I missing out because I'm not hearing this soundtrack all the time, or
so
like,
I had kind of
what's going on? I want my metal. I want my
yeah.
fucking
So
metal.
well, and I had a little bit of a different experience or a little bit of a different feeling about how I would have rathered it than you. I know that because you're like, you just want to hear the soundtrack because you love it. It kicks ass. I think for you, you'd be happy if the soundtrack just went down 10 decibels when you weren't in combat so you could hear it in the background. For me,
or even it just went to an ambient sort of,
So this is where I went, where it's like, I like the idea because to me, the whole game's kind of a mystery and each level's kind of a mystery as you're going around trying to collect everything. I would almost go like the ambient track, but kind of lead it towards more like make it kind of a mystery soundtrack or something that makes you kind of,
yeah, almost like a horror, like a psychological horror kind of thing.
They could have even kept the hospital kind of background in, and that would have been a good example of something that would have been kind of fun to listen to in the silence.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. And then that would have reminded you as well
Where you are
straight in and reminded you you're in a dream. This
so then
real.
My other comment was if you're going to be a bit more like that, then what you do is you shut the sound off when all the enemies are killed and all the treasures found. Like if you want to have that happy medium, I don't mind, but I feel like there was at certain times and experiences in the game, it felt like I was kind of missing out or that there just wasn't anything going on. And I felt that negative space, that the lack of ambient music during those inaction periods kind of had a moment of taking me out of the game. And the more hours I put into it, the more that feeling kind of happened. And like even from a streaming point of view, not that I care from a streaming point of view, but when I'm like kind of smacking my lips looking for a secret and there's no backup music, who wants to hear DGA smacking his fucking lips?
it's just literally like you're running around kicking stuff, so it's just
but I know this isn't made for a streamer, so I'm not that's just an observation I made while streaming. That's all.
Yeah. I get what you mean entirely. I think so there definitely is ambient music or some sort some sort of ambient soundtrack is probably a better way of putting it. Awesome pickup as well.
Yeah, that was wicked.
That's one of my favorite ones. There is some sort of ambient soundtrack that plays, but it's very, very, very low. Like almost you can hear it if you're listening out for it, but you wouldn't hear it, I don't think.
Right.
And I think that needs to come up a bit. Just enough to make you know. Well,
it's just you go from being the hottest shredding ever.
Galloping.
Galloping. And here's a question. Maybe someone in the chat can comment because I haven't played very much Doom Eternal in the past 2 years. But what does Doom Eternal do between? Because I feel like Doom Eternal has hellfire and screaming in between. I feel like Doom has a little something. But yet again, easy to put an indie dev game up against a game like Doom Eternal, that's not what I'm trying to do, but I'm just using kind of like-minded things as an example,
Also, I 110% every time if the doctor doesn't do the thing that I want him to do, I kill him. Every time. That's
good. It's good hanging out and talking to people that love games like this, and it's really nice. Doing wonderful. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day. I think we're having a killer day. I don't know. This is going exactly according to plan, despite myself having 2 hours of setbacks earlier in the afternoon. But we're not going to talk about that.
That never happened. It was only 45 seconds. What are you talking
about? No, it was. And my poor webcam feels like an eternity for that thing. So now I think we're going to get into the conversation kind of about who is this for and what the difficulty curve is, because there's no difficulty switch on this game. You turn it on and you play. Like you literally turn it on and you're playing the game. That's as quick as it is.
Yeah.
And the question is kind of who this is for, because obviously there's a market for retro shooters and FPS, but couldn't really find off immediate impressions. Well, I mean, our first complaint was kind of the music, but I've got a few more not I don't want to say complaints because I don't think they're complaints. They're more
Yeah.
observations about things I didn't find fun versus observations of things that I found more fun, if that makes any sense. So, like, yeah, who is this game for? We'll answer this, I think, afterwards. But the idea is, J-Rod, you're a great example, and Fugue as well. You guys have played enough first-person shooters to know that someone can say retro shooter, but that's actually like, well, what do you mean? Because there's 3 or 4 different types of games that you could say retro shooter have it be based off of, and each one of those games is going to have a different community about it that's going to want different things out of their games. So a great example right off the bat is how the dev said you can choose to play the story or not. And that's right off the bat. There's 2 types of gamers chosen for this game. So,
Yeah.
difficulty. I'm gonna come out here and say it. The difficulty is kind of sometimes artificially inflated due to RNG in a way that makes me feel bad for not necessarily being bad at the game, but for being punished by a map that is oppressive versus the weapon that I have. I don't think that this is necessarily a downside, but I think this is kind of this is where the procedurally generated stuff kind of falters a little bit.
Yeah. So I think in general, there's nothing you can really do to stop. With procedurally generated systems, there's nothing you can really do to stop that kind of thing happening, because if you did, you could build something to stop.
But it defeats the purpose.
Yeah, it absolutely defeats the purpose, because the reality is some of these I've got through, and I had said to you earlier, some of these I've went into the level and I've died 3 times in a row because RNG has been terrible and I haven't got any weapon, that's better than my shotgun. I haven't had a long range weapon or a rapid fire weapon or anything like that.
Yep.
And it completely, that's it. That's it.
Morning Rage,
done for
welcome
me.
in.
Hey Rage. That's it done for me in a big room. I'm screwed. But other times I've managed to somehow survive just on that one weapon, or survive a ridiculously difficult encounter using every tool and somehow managing to try hard just enough through that room to get through it. And I've survived with 7 health and I've managed to get through and finish it and kick ass and take names. But I think if you were to manually set it so that it was kind of fixed that you would get something,
Yes.
it just it would destroy it. It would ruin it.
Well,
And I think
yeah.
you're completely right. It does artificially inflate it, but is it artificially inflating it if it's randomly generated?
Yeah, because it's not. It doesn't.
It's not doing it on purpose.
No, so I think that this is a great time to bring this up. So anyone out there was a game that came out recently called Power Slave Exhumed. It was remastered by Night Dive Studios, and everyone was pretty excited a couple months ago when it came back. I was one of those people that played it from start to finish. I got both endings. I had a blast playing it. I had a few big issues with this game, and the issues I had with that game are definitely not the same issues I had with this game. However, there were some interesting parallels between the way the way you pick up consumables. So all of your weapons in Power Slave are charged by the same consumable blue orb, and you have to switch to whatever weapon you want whenever you want new ammo for that weapon. Much like your health is completely randomized throughout any level, so that there's a few health placements, but nothing's really guaranteed, and the enemies honestly could never drop health. You could reach a level in Power Slave Exhumed. Now I say that game, the extremes are different than Nightmare Reaper. Nightmare Reaper has it's more reined in, it's tighter, it's a little better, but you sometimes feel that you're getting punished just because the enemy didn't drop enough life, or because the enemies didn't drop enough ammo, or because there was not enough ammo or health in the small level that you played. And this is where I was like, and much like you said, it's like it's hard to balance. And I'm like, well, it wouldn't be the end of the world to throw 50 life in a secret room. Like
Absolutely.
that wouldn't be the end of the world. Because you reach points where you get to a boss that you didn't know about. You have 5 life left, and there's no life left in the room, so you already know you lost. There's nothing you can do about it. And this is where I go, it's not the end of the world, but there's a wave of this doesn't feel good that washes over me as a gamer, that especially if you felt like you did good during the level and then you're like, wait a minute, the chainers in the next room.
Yeah. It's exactly what I said to you earlier. Was I hit a boss once and I'd done really well, and I realized it was the boss because I could, I could hear the crying and stuff, and I was like, wait, shit, I have like 20 health. I have no ammo.
My guns suck.
The whole level. My guns suck. I ran around the whole level looking for ammo and was like, I just have to face it. There's no way I can possibly win this, unless, of course, I'm going to kick the boss to death.
And like, no boss will let you do that. Like, you can get a few kicks in, but you're not going to beat a boss. You can't knife a boss to death. Not going to work.
I mean, it would be cool, but I mean
maybe
it would be very fucking hard to melee a boss to death.
You need some crazy stats on your weapon. You need like stun and penetration. You need a bunch of stuff.
For sure, yeah.
Not with that attitude.
Not with that attitude.
So,
yeah. So I completely get that. Yeah.
Like
yay, they killed the guy.
You end up getting power-ups as well, right? And once you learn that there's a boss in the room, if you use your consumables and power-ups right, you can be in a scenario like, I remember the first time I fought the chainer crowbar, took me maybe 10 attempts. On the 10th attempt, the RNG made it so the super power-up Nightmare Reaper sauce, which basically allows you to throw fireballs for as long as you can, it was right outside the boss's door. So I just took the sauce, walked in the door, and the boss didn't even stand a chance. So this is where I didn't learn anything from the boss because I just got a good weapon and I nuked it.
Yeah.
And there's the part of me that wants to feel like I've gotten better at the game. So I feel bad when I win because the RNG worked in my favor. But then there's the part of me that like has this greasy smile on my face that's like, guess you got the Nightmare Reaper sauce.
Yeah. So with the power-ups, it's interesting as well. I've only ever found them useful in about 3 places. A lot of the time, I've never actually used them, or I've completely not realized they were there and went, oh, I finished that battle.
I found a power-up in the last room today. I think I've had 1 or 2, and it was like, well, there's no enemies left. What's the point of the power-up here? But that is the downside to the generation of the game itself, and I get that.
But the other thing as well is, and
every damn time,
yes, it might be my copy pasta response, I suppose, because I'm thinking of it in a sort of the technical way of how procedural generation works and things, is that, I mean,
nice booty.
If you were to, if you were to win every time, it wouldn't be fun.
Well,
it would just be that god. It would just be that god complex all over again. It wouldn't
exactly.
be procedurally generated. It would be a procedurally generated fake god complex. Procedurally generated with a manual god complex to make sure that you're constantly happy.
Yes.
And suddenly, the challenge is gone.
So this is the other thing we kind of talked about is
bad luck, the RNG is part of the fun of it, because I always get really excited. No matter what weapon I find, I might not use it, I might not care, but I'm still excited. I found something, I found a secret, I found a weapon. And
we talked about, and this kind of, we didn't talk about this too much, but it kind of blends into our conversation, the idea that you find a legendary weapon that's completely amazing, and it runs 5, 6, 7 levels, you do really good. And then for whatever reason on that 8th level, the way the level's designed, your weapon becomes completely and utterly useless in every room you go to. It's a really interesting way of... it's really interesting.
Keeping you going. It's moving you. It's trying to move you.
It's trying to tell you need to move to a different weapon. You need to pivot. You need to pivot your game style. You need to move more. You need to move less. You need to whatever it is.
Think about it.
And the RNG really rewards people that are able to pivot on a dime and are able to completely change their game style. And I think that there's a large part of this that's going to be, there's going to be a new type of gamer that's going to like this. It's almost like a lot of people like Fortnite and stuff because the RNG allows it to like level the playing field. I think like a game like this kind of levels the playing field between people that are OP at first-person shooters and people that are casual gamers, because the RNG is going to level that playing field. You can be really good at this game and The RNG is going to kill you. You can be not necessarily great at this game and get a good weapon, and away you go.
Yep. It's both of those things have happened to me. I've pulled off amazing rooms where I should have absolutely died, but I've somehow survived. And then likewise, I've been overpowered as fuck, but I've got my ass kicked because I wasn't prepared for it. And then exactly like J-Rod says, we discussed that earlier. Chapter 2, Act 2 is going to kick the fuck out of you.
Yeah, Chapter 2, it scales pretty quickly.
It very much will throw you into almost a completely...
The enemies, everything.
Story. Yeah, it goes, oh, you think that was hard?
Nice
and then
daddy
it goes,
dumper.
Here, have some skills, but also we're going to fuck you up for having those skills. We're going to make sure to cancel out those skills. And it makes you realize that you need to move quick or slow. It's all strategic. It's totally strategic.
So I think that like that my two biggest, if I was going to say not complaints but criticisms, would be the music doesn't necessarily fit the scenes sometimes, and it's mostly the gap between action and inaction. There just seems to be a bit of an emptiness there, and I think we both kind of agreed that I love the RNG, but sometimes being on the wrong end of the RNG feels really bad, and I think that there's a lot of people that might come across an area where you have a bad gun and a bad start. You might see a lot of people put this game down after Act 1 because the difficulty curve in learning how to use these new abilities, as well as trying to, adapt as you get new enemies and level designs. I feel like there's a lot of people that might tap out because that difficulty isn't assigned. Like it isn't like this firm fixed box that you work within. It's kind of all over the place, and if you're not willing to go with the flow, if you're not willing to play ball that way, you might not like Nightmare Reaper.
Like the video there, I know I'm a couple of seconds behind, but the video there, that machine gun he's got, did you see how quickly he took out that chainer?
Took 2 seconds.
Insane.
Fire rate 68%.
Excellent RNG. Amazing RNG. It's ridiculous. But then, you might not get that. But like Rage says, RNG is good when it's balanced. But does it make it good? Does it make it good if you constantly win because RNG is always in your favor?
Well, and this is where
does it give you that challenge of, like I said earlier, like you've managed to somehow clear that room with like 5 health and a crap weapon. You've done it somehow. This
game definitely, and this is the one thing, the Nightmare music, the Nightmare Reaper soundtrack is awesome, Kosov. It's a 10 out of 10.
It's so good.
And this is the one thing that I think the kind of the last point in this regard is, if you're really good at these games, I think this game is going to reward you, because I feel like this is the type of challenge that, like, if you want to have the shittiest weapon and play this game, you know what? Fucking go. Let's do it. And I think this game is going to tell you that, you can play this. You can kind of play it any way you want, I think. And between the weapons and the abilities, you can kind of design, not necessarily your character, but you can design your gameplay style based on the decisions you make. And it's going to reward the players that embrace the RNG and embrace the fact that they're going to die. You're going to die. I don't think an expert gamer is going to go through this and not walk into a room and realize that the door closed behind them and they're fucked.
Yeah. There's like two giant pink dudes.
Yeah, they just blow up.
A wizard in front of them. They're on fire. They've just exploded. They're done.
So who is this game for? I would say, like, there's times where this game kind of feels like, it's kind of hard to say. There's times where this game feels almost right up like Doom. I'm not going to lie. It feels straight up like you've got a rocket launcher, walk into a room, blowing things up. But then there's times where it feels like you're playing Doom Eternal and you're grappling around the map, in a completely different style of blowing things up. And I think that the real happy medium ground here is people that enjoy movement and people that enjoy, like, kind of fast-paced, good gun gameplay. I think if you're able to enjoy these two kind of things together, while at the same time accepting that RNG exists, you're either going to benefit from it and be punished from it. I think it's going to be for you, but I think if you go in this game and you get disheartened 5 or 6 times after getting blown up because of bad RNG, and that frustrates you, you might not be as interested in this game as you might be in not a standard, but like more of a rail shooter where it's like you go into the level, you beat up the level, you get the rune, you move on to the next level, and away you go. This game's not like that at all.
No, definitely not. I completely agree with you. I think as long as you can understand that, as long as you're absolutely fine with RNG, that RNG that can make or break a run, you'll be fine, and I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll enjoy it a lot, as long as you're willing to experiment and you're willing to, play around. I literally play with your strats, like changing to the chainsaw here and climbing the wall and stuff. As long as you're willing to do things like that and think outside the box a bit, I think you'll love it. I think you'll really love it. You don't have to go as fast as you think. You can take this very methodically. Look, this is relatively slow compared to what I'd be doing. I'd be all over the show in this bit, but you can go slow. You can spec yourself so that you're slow. Like you said, you do genuinely build a character with your weapons.
Yep.
And I think that's, if you're cool with RNG being able to kick your ass and RNG being able to save your ass, go for it.
I think
you'll love it.
I think J-Rod makes a really good point here in that it's not like Binding of Isaac. When you die, you lose your run. You start at the beginning.
Yeah.
When you die, you start at the level that you last ended off, and levels can take anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes to complete, depending on how you go. So you might hate the RNG, but let's just say if you die at a boss level, you can infinitely retry that boss level until you beat it. And as bad as you might feel about the RNG, the ability to redo that. Now, I've heard some pretty mean things about New Game Plus, so I'm pretty excited to see what that might look like.
Yeah.
But that's all going to be for y'all to figure out when you pick the game up.
I think New Game Plus is definitely going to be an absolute, oh, you think that was fucking hard?
Absolutely.
Big slaps you as soon as you start.
Yep, absolutely. Totally agree. All right, well, is there anything else, Crob4r? I know that you've got a bit more of a list. I'm feeling pretty confident in our review of Nightmare Reaper. Does anyone have any more questions or statements about it? I feel like we've done a pretty thorough review, and I'm pretty confident that is the difficulty modifier. Yeah, and I'm pretty confident that if you heard our review and don't already own the game, then you didn't listen to us. But
you should. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. In reality, I think my review is like we don't really have like a standard that we go by. We don't really have anything like that. So my review is if you like retro-based shooters, you like movement-based combat, you're fine with RNG, and you're also fine with pixel art, I think this game is going to be an absolute hoot. Crob4r?
Yeah. I couldn't have put it better myself. As long if you like RNG, you like loot, you like shooting, you like exploring, you like getting your ass handed to you, go for it. You like having a god complex, go for it. But this game will put you down very quickly.
Yeah, because you can go from 0 to 0 really really fucking fast based on the enemies and levels. So, and that's it for me, folks. Crob4r, please say your piece.
Thanks.
All right, well, Crob4r's a total piece of shit. It's been an absolute fucking wonderful time streaming with you guys. And remember, if it ain't dirty, it ain't worthy.